Now I know that this stress field now actually reduced to a pressure field. I only have pressures. The rest is zero. And note that this also indicates, which we kind of know, that the pressure, let's say that I pick a particular point over here, this doesn't matter which direction the pressure value will be the same. But note one thing, I am at a particular point. I'm not saying that the pressure here versus pressure here or pressure here is the same. I'm just saying that at one particular point, the direction of the pressure measurement doesn't matter. Okay? So now, as engineers, we are not as interested in the pressure only. We know the pressure, but if I want to communicate with the solid mechanics people, I need to convert this to the forces. So now, how am I going to convert these to the forces? That's the question that I'm going to answer in the rest of this segment. So what I'm going to do here is, instead of analyzing this in 3D, I will take a cross section like that and I will analyze this in 2D. Okay, that will make the mathematics much easier, and as you will find out, things that I'm going to get will look symmetric in 2 dimensions, so I can use take advantage of the symmetry. Okay, so I said that I'm going to draw this in 2D, so let's just do that. This is a differential element in immersion. So we define this way. This will be the y, and this will be pointing up, will be the z. It's important to note and be consistent about it. So the z is pointing up. Some students are a bit confused about it because the gravity, when we talk about the gravity is pointing it down, right? At a point, the pressure, as I mentioned, that doesn't have any direction, whether it's applying x direction, y direction, or z direction. However, I didn't say that the pressure here is equal to pressure over here. So what I need to do is I need to look at a strategic way. Let's look at this pressure, okay, and this particular surface. So I'm going to transfer the properties of the pressure from here to this plane. And in order to do that, this is what I'm going to do. It's going to be, let's write it over here, P, as I'm traveling in a negative y direction, it's going to be a negative sign. And I'm assuming that as this is a tiny differential element, the pressure variation within here is linear, which is a fairly reasonable assumption. Okay, so that will be del P del y times, let me write it, then I'll explain, delta y over 2. First of all, this whole thing is delta y, and this is delta z. Okay, now when I travel from the center of the cube to this face, the direction that I travel is in negative y, right? And so that's why what I did was I said that, hey, I had the rate of change of pressure in the y. As I travel in the negative direction, I put a negative there, and then I multiply by the distance that I travel from the center of the cube to the edge. And what is this distance? Delta y over 2. Okay, I'm not quite done yet though, okay, because as I said, my motivation is to find the forces, so I need to multiply by this by the area, and the area will be delta z times delta x. Okay, so now let's do the same analysis in this direction. So I'm not going to take a lot of time, but I'm simply going to write P plus the rate of change of pressure in the y direction times delta y over 2 is the distance that I travel between the center of the cube to this face, times the area, and the area will be the same, delta z, delta x. Okay, I will write the same equation this direction as well, because you will see there will be some unique things happening. So I'll actually put it over there and write that this is going to be P plus, because I'm traveling in the positive z direction, the rate of change of pressure in the z direction times the distance that I travel between the face of the cube and that particular face, times the area. This time around the area will be delta y times delta x. Delta x is into the page, okay? And if I go ahead and write this over here as well, so this will be P minus, because now I'm traveling in the negative direction, the rate of change of pressure in the z direction times the distance that I travel between the center of the cube and that particular face, times the area, which is delta y, delta x. Okay, so what other force that I have a differential small fluid element. What other force that I should put if this was a free body diagram? The thing that I need to put in is the weight of this particular fluid element or differential element. And if I want to do that, here's what it's going to look like. This W will be, as I said, it's going to be N times G in terms of the unit, but then it's going to be indicating in the negative z direction. I is the unit vector in x direction. J is the unit vector in y direction, and k is the unit vector in z direction. Okay, so why did I put a negative in front of here as opposed to a positive? Because z is pointing, look here, the z is pointing up, but the weight is pointing down, so that's why I put a negative sign over here. One thing that we may want to note is I don't really like to put m, and I discussed this in the previous modules, so this is going to be the specific weight times the volume, and in the k direction, right? So that's what I have. Okay, so let's not forget this down the road. Okay, let's look at the summation of the forces in the y direction. So what will be the summation of the forces in a static case, or it is inviscid? It will be 0, right? So then let's do that. Okay, so the summation of the forces in the y will be equal to 0. Let's first write this force, the positive force, minus, so it's going to be this minus this, right? So let's do that. So I'm simply copy pasting del p del y, delta y over 2 times delta z delta x minus, remember this is minus of this, so I simply write it. It's going to be minus of p plus del p del y, delta y over 2, delta x, delta z. All right. So now let's see what happens over here. This is kind of complicated, but do you see that each of these terms are multiplied by delta z, delta x, delta z? So then this is p times that, but there's a negative sign in front of it, plus there's a positive. So you do see that these two cancel each other, right? These two terms. So then what I get is 0 is equal to minus del p del y. What is the multiplication of these three? That's the volume, okay? So it's going to be volume divided by 2 minus del p del y. Again, the same thing, volume by 2. So you can see from here that I get minus del p del y times volume is equal to 0. So what does this mean? Either the volume is 0, and I discussed that the volume is not 0, or del p del y is equal to 0 as well. So you can see from here that del p del y for a fluid element is 0. If I were to do the analysis, I take this as a, note that here this was y, this was z. I can also take the differential fluid element from this plane as well, from this plane, like this. So if I do that, you will see that if I repeat this whole analysis, which I'm surely not going to repeat, I'll get del p del x will be equal to 0 as well. Okay? So from here, you see that del p del x is equal to del p del y is equal to 0. So what does this mean? Okay? So this is a formula that I obtained. What does it mean? Does this mean pressure is 0? No. It means that pressure is not a function of x, the pressure is not a function of y. Okay? And the way that we define is this. Y is this way, and x is going into the page. This was x and y, right? So what is going on over here is you can see that if I travel in this direction, or if I travel in this direction, the pressure is not going to change. So this is not something very surprising to you, actually. And we have a bunch of nice beaches, right? The St. Pete, the Clearwater Beach, or Siesta Key. You notice that, do you feel when you're diving and you're going in a particular direction, is the pressure on your ears, that's how you typically feel, is going to go up or down? No, it's going to keep constant. The only thing that's left to do over here is the third component. I didn't really touch this third component, so let's analyze that as well. Okay, let's go ahead and do it. So let's look at the forces. I have one positive force over here, one negative force over here, and I have another negative force, which is the weight of the differential fluid element. So let's write it down. Okay, so then this is going to look like this. P, I was traveling in a negative direction to get this force pointing in the positive, del P del Z, delta Z over 2, was delta x, delta y. So that's the first force. Minus, I said that there will be P plus delta P, delta Z over 2, delta x, delta y. And the third force was the gravity, so that will be negative of specific weight times the volume is equal to 0. As I'm only writing in the z direction, I don't have to write k anymore. Okay. Few things, exactly the same logic. I'm not going to spend all the time over here. P's cancel. This becomes volume. This becomes volume. So let's write one more time. So I get myself minus del P del Z volume by 2 minus del P del Z volume by 2 minus specific weight times the volume is equal to 0. Okay, so these two terms combine, and this can be said as del P del Z times the volume minus specific weight times the volume is equal to 0. So then from here, if I take in parentheses all the volume, you can see that minus del P del Z minus the specific weight will be equal to 0. This means either this is 0, volume is 0, or this parentheses is 0, or both of them are 0. So volume is not 0. I mentioned this a few times. So then from here I get myself this term to be 0. So del P del Z, I moved it to the other side. This becomes minus of the specific weight. What does this mean? Note that the way that I derive this is, I mentioned that Z is pointing up. So what this means is that when I go up, I reduce the pressure. When I go down, I increase the pressure. Again, it does make sense. I gave the example of nice beaches that we have over here. It's the same thing. You go down into ocean, you're going to have more pressure on your ears, right? You're going to feel it. We knew this as well. But we now quantify it, okay? So what I want to say that if this is equal to constant, and let's visit this for a minute, and this was rho times g, right? If rho times g is equal to a constant, it means, okay, so I need to be careful that my g doesn't change. So elevation change is kind of important. If I'm analyzing a flying vehicle, that I need to be careful over here. Density is constant. Okay, so this can be good for liquids, and it may be good for gases if the pressure and temperature or the thermodynamic state doesn't change much. So I simply move here, this to here, and take integral of both sides. Okay, and if I do that, what I'm going to get is I will get P as a function of Z, obviously, will be P naught minus specific weight times the Z. Okay, and this P naught is a boundary condition. P0, this is my boundary condition. If I define Z is equal to 0 at the sea level, which is fairly reasonable anyways, so then what this will be, as you know, if I'm using absolute pressure, this is going to be PATM, right? So then it will be PZ will be equal to PATM minus specific weight times the Z, okay? And note that this is in absolute terminology. How about the gauge terminology of this? What is PATM in terms of the gauge? That's going to be 0, okay? So it's going to be 0 minus specific weight times Z. So then over here, I get a fairly nice formula that I want you to know by heart. Is this, okay? The gauge pressure is equal to minus specific weight times Z. This will be very important for me to solve the questions that I'm dealing with. There is something else that people refer to, which I don't usually use too much. It's called pressure head, okay? And that will be PG divided by the specific weight. In this particular case, it's minus Z, right? The unit of this is length, so that's an advantageous. People talk about it. We'll revisit this a lot when we talk about the dynamics case, okay? But now let me give you an example and ask you a question. Okay, so I have 3 containers. One container is like this. I have fluid over here. The second container is like, let's do very little, very tiny amount of liquid that I have over here. And the third one is, let's do this way. It's extremely small, almost like there's a little bit of opening over here, okay? And this is my, obviously, these three are the same liquids. So I have same liquids on all these three. My question is, what's the relation between P1, P2, P3? Good iffy exam question. You may think that this may have the highest pressure because the area is the smallest, so it's much more concentrated. You're thinking about something else. You think about if I have like a constant weight distributed to a smaller area, the pressure will be more. That's different conversation. I'm not dealing with that. But what is happening here is, the answer is here. The pressure is only a function of the specific weight, as all these three are the same, so the specific weight is constant, so it's only a function of z. As you see, the z's for all these three are the same, so then this P1 will be equal to P2 will be equal to P3. How about the forces? So if the pressure is the same, then the force over here, the area is, you know, force is equal to pressure times area. F1 will be larger than F2, larger than F3. What if the fluid that I'm dealing with is compressible? So what is going to happen to this equation? Because as you noted, when I go from here to here, I assume that this is constant, right? That's what I said. So it's not going to be a valid assumption anymore because the density will be a variable parameter, okay? So let me assess that. Compressible fluids. So if I'm dealing with pressure variation in compressible fluids, here's what I'm going to do. Del P del Z will be equal to negative of the gamma. But now this is a function of Z. It's not a constant anymore. So what I can do, that's just one way, is I can use the ideal gas law. You may remember from physics, you may remember from your thermodynamics, but this is what it looks like. P is equal to rho RT. So if you remember now rho, I need to multiply both sides of the equation by the gravity, acceleration due to gravity, to get rho times g times r times t. And this becomes the specific weight over here. Okay? So then I'm going to pull the specific weight from here, and I'm going to plug it right over there. Okay? Okay, let's do it. So then here, this becomes P times G divided by R times T. So then, if I plug that over there, I'm going to get del P del Z is equal to minus of P times G divided by R times T. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do separation of variables. What that means, if you don't remember or rather recall, is you move this over here, and the stuff that is related to this P, I will move over there, and the rest I'm going to leave it to the other side of the equation. Then let's do what I just said. So we are going to have del P over P will be equal to minus P is already gone, G over R, let's call del Z over T. And then I take the integral of both sides. Then over here, this will be from P1 to P2, Z1 to Z2. So basically, if I proceed with it, the left-hand side, do you remember what this integral is? It's called natural logarithm, ln. That's what I'm going to get. So I'm going to get ln, let's write it over here. I'm going to get ln P2 minus ln P1. I'll work with it momentarily. Will be equal to, now I'm going to assume, okay, this is up to you. It depends on the z height. This g can be a function of z. This t can be a function of z. So it really is up to you, however you want to proceed from this point on. So I'm going to assume that for mechanical engineers, this g may not be variable. If you're using for aerospace applications, that's a whole other story, right? Same thing with temperature. So I'm going to assume those are the same. Minus g over RT, well, that's going to be Z2 minus Z1. And I want to write it this another way, if you remember. So I'm going to get myself ln P2 by P1, right? Remember from the logarithm mathematics, it's going to be G divided by RT, Z2 minus Z1, okay? As you can see, this is a bit more involved compared to the incompressible.